Hi, I'm Jasmine Nicole. Welcome to the Motivational Mystic, a space for authentic, higher conscious conversations to motivate, inspire, and empower. Thanks for listening. Each week, I'll drop a new conscious raising episode. Let's dive in. Releasing what no longer serves you. You get to a point where you may have put in a lot of work to level up in life, better yourself, and evolve or work towards achieving a specific goal. As I've mentioned in many episodes previously, the energy you put out into the universe, it has to go somewhere. That's just the quantum reality we live in. If you keep being persistent, your efforts will eventually pay off. You will level up in life. You will start to see those changes within yourself that make you a better or more evolved person. But within making those changes, within putting that energy out there, you also may start to feel something almost pulling at you. And that can just be people from the past, situations from the past, or old thought patterns. Especially when you're on this evolutionary journey of self-empowerment, self-improvement, leveling up in life, or just working towards a particular goal. You are going to have obstacles along the way, and sometimes those obstacles are in the form of people, places, things, or thought patterns still residing within you or pulling at you that you need to release. It's one thing to outgrow people, and you may have to leave certain people behind, but it's another when you're releasing what no longer serves you because you're in the midst of bettering yourself, working towards a particular goal, or changing your mindset. Especially when you're in that in-between period, that transition period where you've been putting the work in and now you're just starting to question, when is it finally gonna pay off? In that transitory period, you can start to experience self-doubt and maybe even exhaustion. But I feel during that transition period is the time where it's more easier to identify some of those old thought patterns or self-limiting beliefs. It's easier to identify those things in that transitory period because that is the waiting period, and those scenarios become more obvious to recognize. Those thoughts of self-doubt and self-limiting beliefs become the loudest during that time. It's the period requiring the most patience and discipline until your hard work finally pays off, for you to start to see those improvements and changes in yourself, for you to level up in life. Obviously, you're still putting in the work and putting the energy out there to get to where you want to be. But that transition period is really that time when you're starting to question, when are my efforts going to pay off? And eventually, it will. So you don't want to fall into self-doubt. You don't want those old, outdated ways of thinking to creep back in if you're trying to better yourself or evolve as a person, because it can almost become an obstacle or limitation along the way. And you certainly don't need that. Those people you had to remove yourself from in order to evolve or level up in life, you may start wondering if you should see them again, or they may try to creep back into your life. So really being intentional about releasing what no longer serves you as you're working towards your goals, as you're working on bettering yourself, is very, very important on your life journey, because you can be carrying all these things that happened to you from the past, knowingly or unknowingly. You don't want to be a prisoner to your past, but you do want to learn from it. Sometimes people might be subconsciously carrying things with them that they don't even recognize until it randomly rises to the surface and captures your attention. And you start wondering, why do I feel this way? Why am I dealing with these emotions again? It's because you haven't released them. Releasing outdated ways of thinking, releasing trauma, releasing people who no longer bring value or who may serve as a detriment to your life is necessary. By doing that, you are making space for the new to come in, making space for you to create new thought patterns, for you to build new friendships or relationships, for you to be able to figure out better ways of doing things so you can achieve your goals. When you're in that transition period, It is the best time to be introspective, to become self-reflective, to combat those feelings of self-doubt or combat self-limiting beliefs. That transition period between you working towards your goal, you bettering yourself, and actually getting there can be tough. It's confusing. It's the unknown. But in that time, make sure you're still showing up and doing your part to really take inventory of what you're still holding on to that can be hindering or delaying you. The stuff that you can't bring into your next chapter, whether it's outdated ways of thinking, people, even if it's family. You have to really just be intentional about what it is that you want to bring with you into your next chapter as you step into your next level, and what best serves you to release and leave behind. And that can be very emotional. It can be tough to not only come to the realization that there's things you need to release that you can't bring with you to your next level, and you can also be very resistant to it because on some level, it may be comforting. But you don't want to confuse comfort for complacency. And I think a lot of times when you need to release certain people, certain ways of thinking, or things that you do, it can be challenging because there's a level of comfort within holding on to it. But you don't want to keep telling yourself the same story. You don't want to open your life up to those same groups of people who aren't leveling up in their own life and going the same direction that you are. So yeah, just being very intentional about what it is that you can release, what it is that you can do to energetically lighten your load, to make space for what's divinely aligned for you. You can't step into a new timeline bringing old baggage with you. It will do nothing but weigh you down or possibly sabotage you. So releasing what no longer serves you is a part of the process. It's a part of the level up. It can suck, especially if you have to release family. Some of you out there were born into very loving and supportive families, and that's great. And I know some of you out there maybe weren't as lucky. We all make the best of the cards we were dealt. But let's say you were a person that was born into a very toxic family, and you can recognize the toxicity, but those family members think it's just normal to function in dysfunctional ways. And you possibly being a higher vibrational being, someone that operates on a higher consciousness level, you can see the pattern. You can clock the behavior and say, no, I don't want this for myself. I want to be the one that's going to do something different. I'm going to be the one that's going to be the ancestral cycle breaker, the generational curse breaker, and you choose your own path. You carve out your own lane. In that scenario, you can't bring those same people with you that you're trying to deviate and accelerate your life path from because they chose not to do the work. They chose to conform to the toxicity of the family dynamic. So in that situation, when you're releasing what no longer serves you, and it has to be family, it's not easy, but it's necessary because you are choosing yourself. You are choosing a higher timeline. You are choosing to pour into yourself, to break that generational curse of toxicity for yourself and your offspring, if you have them. If you don't, you can certainly be the example to the younger ones in your family. By them seeing you choose a different path, doing things a different way, it can inspire them to do the same. Be the external outlier. Be the one that doesn't feed into the conformity of the family toxicity. And if you choose to do that, it's challenging because you have to be able to stand on your own. Oftentimes, you have to be able to exhibit lone wolf energy. But the beautiful thing about lone wolf energy, if you know anything about wolves, they always have a pack. And you can choose to create your own pack. You can build that with people who exhibit more healthy and functional ways of being, rather than the toxicity and dysfunction that you're trying to break away from. And within building that pack, you just want to make sure that you're not opening yourself up to the toxicity of the past. Because if you are the external outlier in the family, if you are the generational curse breaker to do things differently, I hate to break it to you, but you're not going to be popular with the family. Let's be honest. You're probably going to be talked about negatively. which is fine. People are going to have their comments and opinions. It has nothing to do with you, but you have to be able to withstand that. You have to be sovereign and so whole within yourself that you can't let broken people get into your head because they're either intimidated, jealous, or just confused that you don't want to be like them. You mirror back to them what they never had the courage to resolve or work on within themselves. That doesn't mean that you are better than anyone. It just shows that you have a different set of values from those particular family members who choose to thrive in toxicity. So in this example, releasing what no longer serves you might be one person, or it can be an entire family. But you have to know you want more for yourself, or you want more for your offspring if you have them, and you don't want to perpetuate the dysfunctional cycle of toxicity. And there is nothing wrong with that. That is your choice to live the life you want to live the best quality of life that you can. This can apply to a plethora of things. Maybe it's a toxic relationship you want to get out of, for example, and it's just a cycle of arguments, fights, or even stagnancy. Just things you did not see for yourself when picking a significant other and wanting to live happily ever after with your person. If it's just a cycle of drama, uncertainty, and dysfunction, you have every right to get up out of there and want more for yourself. But with that, you have to cut that cord. You've got to step away. You've got to love yourself more than the person you're currently with. And it's not from an egotistical perspective. That comes from a place of self-preservation and self-love, where you have to recognize that you love yourself more than you love your significant other that you have a toxic dynamic with. You recognize it's no longer healthy for you to feed into that dynamic, and it's time to cut the cords and step away. Choose you. You choose to release what no longer serves you. It's easy to say in theory, and trust me, I can relate. But to actually put it into action takes effort. It's not going to come easy to you. It's not. You may have feelings of reservation and question, am I doing the right thing? Am I sure I want to do this? But it helps if you focus on an end goal, what you want your life to look like, and if that person fits into it. For example, you may want a happy life filled with tranquility, love, community, and laughter. Does that current person you're with fit into supporting that end goal that you envision? If they hinder you or they don't provide a supporting role into that end goal that you want, then that may give you the answer that you're looking for. And I know this is a sentiment I've echoed many times on this podcast, but it certainly applies to today's episode as well. You are the author of your life story. It's your book. You get to pick and choose who the characters are, and some characters only have a short role or storyline in your book. And that's okay. They don't need to make it to the end with you. Everyone serves a purpose, but it's up to you to determine what their purpose is in your life, and if they help or hinder the quality of your life. Even with having to release certain mindsets or habits, maybe you know someone or you are someone that relies on substances to cope with life, whether it's drinking or other things, and you recognize you're not dealing with your problems. You're just numbing yourself so you don't have to address them, and maybe even causing more issues based off of your dependency on the substances being used. It's up to the individual to really look at themselves and their habits and say, I want more for myself. I need to release this hold that this habit or addiction has on me and choose more for yourself. Step into a higher timeline. I know with those people out there who may be suffering from addiction, that is a very tough battle to deal with. I look at addiction as a sickness. It's a very tough sickness to battle, but it's not impossible. If you want more for yourself, if you want the quality of your life to change, you have to put in the work to do it. You have to put in the work to get there. You have to make the effort. You have to change your mindset to overcome what it is that you're actually using that addiction as a crutch to either cope, numb, mask, or outright avoid facing within yourself. And since we're speaking about changing your mindset, maybe you're someone that might suffer from pessimistic thoughts. You think things never turn out the way you want them to. Everything's always failing. Well, if you're putting those negative thoughts out there to the universe, it is energy. You are putting some type of energetic momentum out there, whether you recognize it or not. Like I mentioned previously, this is a quantum playing field we are on this earth, contained within a larger universe. If you put that negative energy out there, you are going to attract negativity. You are going to attract things that never turn out in your favor. You're going to attract situations where you never can seem to get your head above water. You're going to attract situations where you're never winning at life if you put that negative energy out there, because that is what you truly believe you deserve. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You will behave in ways to manifest those negative outcomes because you inherently already believe that is what you deserve. If you think that way, you will attract it. So, when it comes to releasing what no longer serves you, it can be people, it can be habits, it can be thoughts, it can be a number of things. But again, it's really up to the individual to take inventory of what those things are and if they help or hinder you. If they add or take away from the quality of your life. And I think when someone is in a transition period in their life, moving from one chapter to the next, it becomes easier to really identify those things because you know you're working towards something, a goal, bettering yourself, that level up in life, whatever the scenario is, you're working towards it. And eventually that hard work is going to pay off. But you find yourself in a position where you're questioning when. When is it going to happen? And that's when the doubt creeps in. But also, that is a time where, because that doubt is creeping in, it's easier for you to identify what needs to be released. Once that doubt starts creeping in, sit with it a little bit. Figure out, what is this teaching me? What is this trying to tell me? Is this fear that's popping up? What am I fearing? Oftentimes, fear is an illusion. Sometimes fear can be a mental obstacle, preventing you from actually wanting to step out of your comfort zone and see what's on the other side of it. So releasing what no longer serves you, getting to that point, and I think we all, as adults, because my podcast is for adults, it's not for children, I recommend at least 25 and up, people who have lived a little bit of life here. Releasing what no longer serves you, that's also a part of being introspective. But once you identify those things, you have to actually have the courage to release them. And that can be challenging because people have a tendency to cling to what's comfortable. And complacency can be comfortable. But as high vibrational beings listening to this podcast, we don't settle for complacency. We rise and we conquer. We look to conquer and rise to the occasion. We strive to level up. We look to fully embrace and experience all of the stages of this game called life and anything it throws at us. The good and the bad, we accept it for what it is. You make the best of the cards you were dealt. You keep positive momentum and continue moving forward. You look forward and you don't focus on what's behind you. The people, past scenarios, or situations that you're still holding on to. And you may be subconsciously holding on to it, but ever so often, you start to maybe feel guilt over a past situation, or you start to feel down or sad based off of something you went through in the past. You've already experienced it. You've already overcome those prior situations. So why continue to hold on to it? It doesn't serve you to be a prisoner to your past. When those things come up, those are the things you really need to look at releasing. Those are the energetic cords to the past you really want to cut. Sometimes releasing what no longer serves you can also come in the form of procrastination. Procrastination is something we've all experienced. You may put things off, telling yourself, I'll get to it later, you'll get to it later, and you never do. Or by the time you get to it, the opportunity has already passed you by. So release those outdated ways of thinking and doing things, of showing up or halfway showing up, and fully take advantage of your experience in this game called life by making space, by making room for more to come to you, for the good stuff. You've already experienced negative things in your past. You don't need to continue to relive it. What you can do is release it and make space for better things, for better memories, for better opportunities to come your way. I don't know, today's episode really is something I felt that needed to be expressed at this time. You just see a lot of people dealing with depression, anxiety, just a lot of heavy things that life can throw at you. And I think it's good to just find the time to be introspective, to evaluate what it is that you can do to lighten your load, to take the pressure off, because everyone's dealing with something. And I think if we were more intentional about where we place our energy and what we let occupy our mind, you'll start to realize that you have a lot of clutter within yourself, whether that's thought patterns, emotions, anything that just weighs heavy on you. But when you just find certain parts of yourself that you can look at and say, why am I holding on to this? What is this doing for me? Or how is this serving me? And realize that it doesn't serve you at all. There's a sense of just like relief and lightness and freedom that you start to experience when you take the opportunity to do that, to be intentional enough to do that, to be introspective enough to do that. And I think with so much craziness going on in our world today, we can all benefit from that. So I don't know, I just felt very called to speak to this today. And so I did. Well, that's all I had for today, everyone. Until next time, goodbye.